everyone, and welcome to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 18.
No drones allowed.
That's right.
Wonder if my finger was blurry. Was it? It is. It's blurry. We have to reshoot it.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh.
Let's go.
So we have a very random show for you today, as usual.
Well, it's a mishmash.
Right.
Well, you decided this one's more random than usual?
No, I said as usual.
Oh.
But let's start with some really exciting prints that we want to show you guys.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, actually a few months ago now, Artifact Uprising announced a new product, their signature prints. Fancy. Signature is a nice word for fancy. These are these prints that they gave us a coupon code to order, and they are lovely. You can order 4 5x7s.
Which I did.
Which you did. What's the other options?
2 8x10s.
2 8x10s.
And 1 11x14.
1 11x14. All of them $29.99 is the
correct.
price.
Yeah. Not including shipping. But so, what can I just talk about what I like about these?
Go for it.
So, they are marketed as, their signature print, so they feel a little bit fine art. And they look like they are matted prints, but they're actually not. They're just printed right onto this very thick sort of chipboard kind of, paper.
They call it something fancier online.
Yeah, and they're matte. The finish is matte. They call it eggshell, which I love. I think it's really great. And I believe it's press printed. So but the quality.
What does that mean?
It means it's printed by a press printer.
Okay.
So the look of it versus like a photographic print, like a reflective print that goes through a lab, or like a more traditional printer, is the look of it is a little bit different. But anyway, we won't go into that right now. Whoops. But they're very cool. They're I think you could probably like put them up on a shelf or on a table and just showcase them as a group just on their own, or you could just stick them right on a frame. They look like they're matted again. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. I think they're great, and I kind of want to order a couple of the other sizes, and I think it could make a really cool like type of gallery wall.
From our California trip?
That would be nice, yeah.
Yep.
So,
nice.
So really, really cool prints. We'll post some pictures up.
We could go on and on about them, but one of the things that I stressed when I talked about using their book or making their book through their little iPad app is it's just really nice to see your images in print. The physicality, the hands-on-ness of it is nice. So take some time. Find some of your favorite photos from the last year, or keep in mind over this next couple of months as you're creating some fun summer images for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. And think about getting some prints from wherever. Artifact Uprising is a very nice option. Now, I wanted to talk just briefly about other things that have arrived in the mail this past week. Just briefly share with them. Now, you ordered this, gearing up for wedding season, because we have our first wedding of the new season.
This Saturday.
Saturday, tomorrow. You ordered a 64 gigabyte compact flash card. Why?
Because we needed new memory cards.
Yeah. 64 gigabytes, that we've talked about this before. Go with many smaller ones, one big one. Do you remember what podcast we talked about that in?
No.
No, it's one of them.
Not?
We can go look and see. We tend now to shoot on the bigger cards. Very rare have we had any card issues that have caused us to lose images. It's just easier for card management during the night to not have to worry about switching out cards.
And we shoot backups to the SD card
and
slots.
Right. With the 5D Mark II 3s, you have the dual card slots, which is nice. I broke down this week and ordered a neutral density filter, not a variable one. This is just a 0.9, which I believe is 3 stops of light blockage. Basically, it's a filter that is sunglasses for your lens, and it just allows me to do some of those longer shutter speeds when there is still more light out. Not strong enough for midday, nice blurry water pictures, but you don't have to wait until quite as late or get up quite as early. So it's the lazy man's filter. So ordered that. Then plus we got I ordered a new SD card, 32 megabyte SanDisk Extreme Pro, and the P&Y when it was on sale, I hope you all ordered some too. Those were great deals. You know, it actually is not that much more expensive when it's off sale. It's only like $2 more. So
but it's still worth it to take advantage of the
Oh,
sales.
absolutely. But if you're feeling really bummed that you missed it and you need a card, go ahead and buy one. $2 more. It's like $15 for the 16 gigabyte and it's like $18 for the 32. The last thing you want to do is be out somewhere and be stressed about whether or not you're going to run out of room when we're talking about 20 bucks. I realize that some people have limited budgets, but 20 bucks. Make a sacrifice someplace else, not on the size of your memory.
Right.
And just arrived today. We haven't even talked about the week in review yet, have we?
No.
No, so we're just going to keep trucking with that and we'll talk about the week in review. Just arrived today, Sony Alpha 6000, A6000.
Don't reveal too much about that yet, right?
Teaser. I'm impressed. Autofocus. Headline feature of this from Sony is saying the fastest autofocus from any of their cameras yet. I think they're calling it fastest autofocus in the... I don't know what they're calling it. I've been impressed. I've been really impressed. Now, right now, you notice that I have this little speed booster on and a Canon lens. This thing is a little magical device that allows you, because this is not a full-frame camera. This is a crop sensor. This is a full-frame lens, and there's a lot of wasted light when you're using a full-frame lens on a crop sensor. The speed booster takes advantage of that and focuses it and allows you to actually shoot at wider apertures. With this 50, I can shoot at 35 millimeters. That's right, backwards. It's the reverse of the crop. And f1.2? No, this is a 1.2. At f1, aperture f1. I'll be talking lots more about this coming soon. As always, I ask this, and you know, I feel bad. I don't think I've gotten back, but when I had the Fuji X-T1, I asked people to post some questions they wanted answered. I certainly answered some of them in the review, but I think there's some that I haven't got back and answered yet. If you want to know, if you have specific questions you want to know about the Sony Alpha 6000 or A6000, just post down below or come over on the Facebook page and say, hey, make sure you let me know if such and such. Yep. And I will check that out and either talk about it in the review or come back at some point and talk about it later. Yep. You giving me the move on signal?
I am. You're going on a little too much.
Am I?
Yeah. So let's move on to the week in review.
Week in review.
Yeah.
What was the first video that we did this week?
Photo critique. Yeah. So we had to split that into two.
Yep. So there's more of that coming.
Yeah. So if your photo didn't get reviewed, the chances are that it'll get critiqued on the next one.
We had asked people to post on the Facebook. And I just want to say, I think most of you watching this have also watched that. And we really appreciate that. Anyway. It is a good video to watch, not just because you get to see other people's pictures, but you hear these tips, techniques, and things to think about as you're starting to take a picture. And we have a little glimpse into my brain a little bit later into this podcast. And I talk a little bit more about the image critiquing, helping me be a better photographer, sharing with you all, and repetition of watching out for this or thinking about this is helping me be a better photographer. So take some time. If you aren't watching that, take some time, watch that. Also had a little review about the RAV Power 4.4 port USB charger. This little doodad. Yeah, that went out this week. And much more exciting, think before you click. The inaugural, the seminal, is it a seminal piece of work?
The first.
Of
many to come.
Of many to come. Now, I want to say something, and, you know, in this podcast, Christina is in front of the camera, and it's, you know, and occasionally you see her in other videos, but be assured that in all of my more polished, more targeted, shorter videos, she's in charge. And she gets the job done, helps me stay on track, and is a big part of that. I don't think people know that. I just wanted to say that.
Well, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Does that mean you'll cook me dinner later?
Maybe.
Maybe. this think before you click video. I like it. It's good. It's short. There's going to be lots more just quick things for you to think about to make a stronger image right before you take that picture.
Yep.
Or maybe a little bit more premeditated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about those. So keep your eyes peeled for many more of those. And I don't know if we want to take suggestions of those. We just kind of will post things as we think of them.
Oh, you're welcome to give suggestions. We might ignore them, but I do love to hear your ideas. And sometimes, I tell you what, sometimes you all have an idea that might not necessarily fit in the think before you click, but it is good enough that I end up making a video about it the very next week. So feel free to share your suggestions. I think you know you can do that.
So that was a week in review.
It was.
And now we're going to move on to news. And the first news item that we want to talk about is Samsung. They came out with a new commercial not this week, but very recently.
Nope, totally wrong. Except you got the Samsung part right. It just happened that I watched the commercial recently.
Oh, okay.
It was a commercial from last summer.
Oh, wow. That's
And
very old.
I just, it's very appropriate to briefly talk about, as I've been reviewing these mirrorless cameras more and more. Sony a6000, if you hadn't got that, it is a mirrorless camera. The Sony a7 was a full-frame mirrorless camera I reviewed recently, and of course the Fuji X-T1.
Can you pass the drink?
It's almost gone. I'm going to get your cooties. Oh, man. So, this commercial, it's one of those man-on-the-street commercials, kind of like, is Coke or Pepsi better? They got two cameras side by side. One is this little kind of mirrorless, some sort. Another is a big DSLR. And they have people pick it up, take pictures with it, look at the back of the camera, look at the picture that was taken, and ask them which one's better. And of course, in the video that they show, time and time and time again, which one do people pick as the better camera?
The bigger one.
The bigger one.
Spoiler alert.
Bigger is better. I thought about making that a title. But the punchline to the commercial is then they're like, well, and all of a sudden they just kind of pull the DSLR apart, and it's the same camera sitting inside a DSLR housing. So you got two little Samsung mirrorless cameras in there.
I will say that while clever, I feel like that commercial only proves that our perception of what better is skewed based on size, but it doesn't actually prove that their camera is better than a DSLR. I know I'm sort of playing devil's advocate, but
no, you're right.
It seems like,
right.
But
what they're, here is this perception that this bigger one is better, but in
That's
fact
very
that
true.
they're exact same camera and,
Totally.
it's capable of taking beautiful pictures. The reason that I bring this up is because, and I don't remember if I said this on the last podcast or when we recorded this the other night, we've got a lot of options now, and I think even more so every day, every time we say this as we move forward and have more and more options, check your options. A DSLR isn't the default answer for best image quality and best feature set anymore. Love them. We still are going to show up at weddings for many years to come with a DSLR. I feel confident in saying that. But there's a lot of you who aren't showing up at the weddings or aren't showing up for professional events, but want a good camera that shoots good quality images and videos. It doesn't have to be a DSLR.
That's right.
Yeah. So tune back in next week for the Sony Alpha 6000 review.
Yeah.
And also, I will be reviewing this weekend. I don't feel like we just bashed DSLRs, but we just said that there's lots of options. What I call the default standard Canon wedding kit. Folks at Lumoid are sending that over. I'll be talking about that, using it this weekend when we shoot a wedding, and sharing some wedding photos with you next week. Good.
Yeah.
What else do we have for news?
So the next news article is, you guys may have heard of it. I found it at the Photography Bay. We have
We'll put a link down below.
Full blogger listed here, but the Photography Bay has a much better article.
Okay.
In my opinion.
You tell me which one to link later.
Okay, I will. And apparently Amazon decided that they want to patent, or that they wanted to, and the patent was granted by the U.S. Patents Office. They wanted to patent a specific type of lighting technique. And this lighting technique is basically how to create a seamless white background behind a subject using only strobes or lights. So
as
the
opposed
application, as opposed to creating it in post. So
Photoshop.
you can have
Okay.
in Photoshop or Lightroom, you can have a kind of a white background and then just kind of blow it out by using brushes and stuff. You can do that.
Or even just cut it out. Cut the product out and stick it on a white background.
No, we're talking about shooting the product behind a really clean, maybe not pure white, but like grayish background, and then blowing it out. That's how professional photographers. I mean, you could go and cut something out and stick it in front of, like, on something white.
In Photoshop.
Right, but that would be really difficult.
Yeah.
If you were shooting portraits, if you're shooting somebody's portrait, like if I were shooting your portrait right now and I wanted to create a high-key image, I would just shoot you in front of as white a background as I can get and try to get as white, as pure white as I can. And then if it's not pure white, then I would just, in post, I would like paint or dodge until I get pure white. Okay. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Can you define a high-key image?
It's an image that is primarily bright. So if you look at the histogram,
your exposure is very bright.
Yeah, so it's not, your exposure is white, but then there's also a lot of highlights. So there's a lot of it's not a centered image. There's just a lot of white and bright spots in it. Yep. So what they wanted to patent was creating a high-key image just using equipment. And so people were kind of up in arms about this week, because how can Amazon possibly patent something that has been used for many years, something that has been done for many years by photographers before there was Photoshop? I mean, people have been doing this when they couldn't Photoshop stuff, and it was more practical to just do it in camera. Then that's what they would do that, and lots of photographers do that now.
Well, I have the answer.
What's the answer?
Well, the answer is our patent system is broken. That's why Amazon could patent this.
Right.
But do we want to back up a step and say, why would Amazon want to patent this?
Well, no, we want to keep talking about the fact that people were, just kind of upset at Amazon for doing this. And so it is kind of a silly thing to patent, but I read a little bit more about it, and I read some of the comments that people posted on the article. And as it turns out, they have patented a very, very specific method of creating an image with a seamless white, pure white background. And so down to the aperture, focal length, or lens used, and shutter speed, and I don't know if ISO is specified, but down to the height. That sounds like an oxymoron. To the height of the light source, and the distance at which the light source is from the background and the subject. So it would be really, really difficult, I think, and probably unlikely that somebody would create an image like that and actually infringe on their patent. And it would be really, really difficult to prove it as well by just looking at the image, unless you have all the metadata, and even then you cannot prove distance and stuff.
You can't prove distance, you can't prove where lights were placed necessarily.
Right, yeah.
Well, maybe you could.
So, no, I think it would be really difficult. And
so I think we talked so much. What's the point? Why did they do it?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Why did Apple patent swipe to unlock? Because it makes the competition, it puts the competition in an uneven place, I think.
But Amazon isn't in the photography market. Why would they want to?
No, they're in the market of quickly and efficiently taking pictures of bajillions of products. I wonder how many new products Amazon adds to their catalog each day, and so many of those have to be photographed. I wonder how much Amazon decides they need to photograph versus letting third-party sellers photograph. I guess it depends on whether or not it's shipped by Amazon. But, excuse me. But I think they could put pressure on other companies. Let's say Walmart. And say, Walmart, you're taking a picture, it looks like ours. And then Walmart will go, oh.
Right.
And
but then I think that this just threatens the little guy who is not actually in competition with Amazon. Is just trying to make, you know, a picture of something or something.
Well, I guess we have to hope that they're not going to go after the little guy.
Yeah, I would hope so too.
But it's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope that the photography community would have enough to say to, like, go to the patent office or to Amazon themselves to kind of be like,
do what?
Dude, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I don't know, they've been...
But, you know, I said the patent system is broken in this country. And the fact that you can get patents for... Remember, there was the great example was a couple years ago, the guy got a patent for toast, on how to make toast.
I don't remember that.
Why? What? Huh? What? Well, we get to use that little graphic. And if you are interested in this patent stuff, NPR, specifically This American Life, the radio show, has done 2 separate podcasts on patents and how there are these patent holding companies that do nothing but make patents and then sue people who make patents for very specific things that are already in use someplace, but somebody didn't think to patent it.
Physical offices.
That's right.
Either. And
they just have like
pretty ridiculous.
Fake doors and fake hallways, and it's pretty amazing. I should listen to that. It's good. Okay.
But enough about that.
Yeah.
Next thing we're going to talk about is drones. Specifically, drones in national parks.
And in this podcast, no drones allowed.
That's right.
We don't have a drone. Well, I first want to mention that, you know, of course, drones are these little quadcopters, or more than quad. There's got 6 and 8 rotors. I don't know if there's any 6. They can carry around a camera, flies cheap, remote controlled, bloop, 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 bloop. And super popular right now. When we did the podcast about gear people want that isn't a camera or a lens, that was mentioned, and I think I forgot to mention that. They are cool. I would like one. It's pretty low on my list because I recognize it would be something that would be fun. I could get some neat photography shots out of it, but it wouldn't really help me progress as a photographer in the directions I want to go. So it's not really something I'm going to focus on, but they are cool. People are flying them all over the place. The National Park just recently said no more in Zion and Yosemite National Park. They've gotten too many examples of folks flying them all over the place, specifically in Yosemite to photograph or video climbers climbing up El Capitan. They had reports of people buzzing over and getting these amazing shots of wildlife, but then of course the wildlife is freaked out and they had little baby goats running from their mothers. So they said no more. And I agree with this. Because I think, well, no, not I think. If I go to a national park, I want to go and enjoy the beauty, the peacefulness of this kind of unspoiled territory. And if I've got drones buzzing over, that's going to annoy me.
You know what really annoys me? It annoys me when people take too much time trying to photograph the beauty of a place instead of just appreciating it just themselves. I wonder if they should ban just photography in general, because it can be, you know, kind of inconvenient and disruptive to like have to wait till somebody's done taking like a million pictures of one thing when they could just look at it and just take a mental picture and be glad that they were there and appreciate it in person. So, I don't know.
I feel like you might be talking to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that? It's like that
Just being really sneaky.
Carly Simon song.
Carly Simon song?
Yeah, you know, You're So Vain. You probably think this song's about you. Even though it isn't.
Were you talking about me?
No, I was just saying in general. I mean, you go to a zoo and there's like a million people in front. And I think that, I mean, you should take a picture if you want. It's fine. But I remember being that person, and now I just kind of like...
You're above that? You're too cool?
No, I don't think that I am a better person because I don't do that. I just think that it can take the enjoyment from other people. If this is a public place and everybody's trying to share it equally, if you're like... You know, and the fact of the matter is that, like, if we're taking a picture at a zoo or something like that, like, unless you come at a certain time of day, like, the likelihood is that you're not going to get a great picture. So, I mean, I understand, like, wanting to remember it, but at the same time, like, I don't know. You can do
All
what you
right.
want.
Well, you took that in a weird direction.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like you're so righteous about or not righteous, just like
but in a national park, I feel like there's
but...
enough room. If somebody wants to tromp off and stand over in the spot and take pictures for an hour, okay.
But what if they're in a spot that's like, I want to look? They're in my way.
I don't think
it's a view. If it's a
I think the motion you just did, where you can kind of look around like that, is just fine. That reminds me of a story, though. I was up at Mount Rainier now in Washington State. Beautiful photogenic location. And this lake. Got up there super early in the morning. 2 other photographers. This was many years ago. I had a little point and shoot. I had a little G5, Canon G5. I had it on my little tripod, and the 2 dudes next to me had big old DSLRs. Anyway, one guy decided he's going to go down right to the edge of the lake shore and was shooting from down there, and the other guy was up above, and he wanted the other guy's spot. And so the guy that was up above sent his wife down to talk to the other guy.
Oh, God.
And be like, can I come down in this spot too? And so you saw the wife, she walked way over there, walked out across the marshy pit, and you could see that they were small talking and stuff. And then she looked up at her husband and she was like, I don't remember why. I don't know why you didn't just move down there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Well, okay. So you think photography should be banned in national parks?
No. I don't think
that's
it
what
should,
you said.
but I also don't
It's
think
what
drones
you said.
should. I don't, I think there should be like a balanced approach to it.
Well, I think there could be a permit system for drones, and this is the bigger question right now of drones are not allowed to be used in commercial photography. You're allowed to fly those suckers around, take pictures for your pleasure, but if you start to charge for it, or which they are being used for real estate and stuff like that, so I think the FAA doesn't really care unless they start to hear about it. I think there should be a permit system so that everybody's not flying these around all crazy. Like the person that's in a little bit of trouble right now is the guy who just flew it over the kind of tornado damage, I think, in Mississippi, and the FAA saying, you're going to get fined, or we think we're going to fine you. And, they may be overstepping, but at the same time, they want to make sure that people aren't flying these in the path of rescue helicopters and things like that, where it could cause a serious incident.
Yep.
So, I think we're in this kind of like Wild West right now of the drones, and it needs to settle out a little bit because they're only going to get cheaper and more plentiful, and more people are going to have them. And so I'm just saying there needs to be some kind of regulation. I don't want it to be overregulated, but something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard any rumors about a T6? That seems like it would be timely right about now, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's been very quiet rumor-wise. I don't like to talk a whole lot about rumors, but I've had a couple people ask me about specifically T6i, D7200, and really there's been no rumors. There aren't a ton leading up to the kind of entry-level DSLRs typically, but it is getting about that time. Now, the T5i was a very short release after the T4i, less than a year. That's very rare. So now it's been just about a year. It could be another prior to summer getting going release, but more likely, I think it's going to be an after summer. But I don't really know. I'm just going on hunches. Yeah. But people always say, should I wait? And I just want to say, you certainly could wait. We talked a couple podcasts ago about whether or not we thought the T6i would have that dual pixel focus technology.
Who knows?
Who knows? I kind of think it will. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
But we did hear that it possibly will have some kind of gimmicky depth of field focusing thing, kind of like the Lytro, but not an after pick, more of like actually like the cell phone cameras where you can blur the background with a filter, not through a shallow depth of field, which I'm kind of like,
Right.
But remember, you could wait for this fancier camera, but it's going to be released at a higher price, significantly higher, $200-300 more. And while you wait for that, you could be making nice pictures. I do understand the dilemma. I got asked about the D7200 the other day. Nikon rumors mentioned that a while ago. I would be shocked if we see that thing in the next 6 months because the mid-tier level of DSLRs have a much longer release cycle. It's going to be a while before we see a D7200. I could be wrong, but I would be shocked or very, very surprised.
Yeah.
So, just something to keep in mind. And also, did you want to, what?
Well, I was just going to move on to the price drops on bodies because, you know, they're a lot more likely to drop in price much more quickly than lenses. So if you're itching to buy something, definitely invest in a lens instead, I think.
Yep. And somebody asked me today if I should upgrade from the T4i to the 70D. It's a decent upgrade.
That is a decent upgrade.
But if you're just upgrading for image quality, it is noticeable, but you're going to make a better investment on a lens. If you need the faster speed, that video system, those are all really significant differences and worth upgrading. But really, if you just want better quality, you're going to give yourself a better investment by going with glass. Because I'm pointing up here on the shelf is the D5200, which I'm getting ready to sell. I bought that sucker for about $900 bucks. I'm going to have to sell it for around $450.
It's a huge price drop.
Bodies drop in price fairly significantly.
It wasn't that long ago that you bought it,
No, about 18 months ago. Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
lenses.
The 40, right?
Yep. Let's say the Nikon 40, which I bought at the same time for $200 and some odd dollars, I could sell it today for about the same price that I bought it.
And to take it a step further, actually, with inflation, you could even make the argument that, like, in a couple of years, you could sell them for a little bit of a higher price than you bought it. I mean,
sometimes, some lenses.
Sometimes.
Yep.
Well, for example, I bought the 51.8 a while ago.
The 51.8.
Yeah, years ago.
Are you stealing my story?
I don't know. I don't have it anymore. But I bought it, I honestly don't remember how much. But I know for a fact that
I can tell this story.
Now it's a lot more expensive than it was before.
I bought mine for $75 in 2005.
That's right. I think we've told this story before.
Yeah. And now I could sell it for $110. Well, actually, the used ones sell for about $100.
Right.
Sometimes a little less. So,
but that's
I mean,
still $25.
Woohoo! Going to dinner.
So you'd probably just...
Winner.
You'd at least, like, pay for the shipping. Or, like, break even. You'd at least break even. So, definitely lenses have a lot more longevity in terms of price and holding their value than camera bodies because they come out every year, you know, especially the entry-level ones. So, you had teased or mentioned earlier in the podcast.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if this happens to anybody else. I think it does. And that's why I took the time to convince you to go along on this. You know, I come across images from time to time that are just amazing, gorgeous images. And I look at them and I think, oh man, I haven't made an image like that. And then I feel like I need to go to a little photo therapy.
So what brings you in today?
Well, I was browsing the internet and I came across these pictures by this Russian photographer. And they're just amazingly beautiful images, you know. And I just worry that that I'll never create an image that good.
Why do you think you will never create an image that good?
Well, I don't know where to get a big dog like that.
Do you think that having a big dog is going to help you make better images?
No, okay, all right. I think that even if I had a big dog and a cute kid and access to a snowy Russian landscape, I feel like I still wouldn't be creating images like hers. And just using her as an example, there's lots of images. I almost come across an image each day that is an amazingly beautiful image. And I just worry that will I ever be able to make images like that?
Well, you know, I think that photography, like everything else in life, is just a process. And I think that instead of thinking as you not being good enough, not making good enough images right now, that you are working towards becoming the best photographer that you can be. And you may get there someday, or you may not get there someday. It depends on how you perceive yourself and your work. But I think that comparing yourself to photographers, I think it's good to look at inspiration from other people that you admire, but comparing yourself doesn't really help you stay passionate about photography. It just kind of brings a lot of negative thoughts that don't encourage you to continue to work towards your goals. So I think that maybe just try to think about the fact that you're just working towards becoming a better photographer, and maybe today you took a picture that was better than a picture you took a month ago, and next month will be the same thing. Do you think you made a better picture today than you did a month ago or a year ago?
I do think I do, or have made a better picture more recently than I did a month or a year ago. You know, I do this weekly image critique where I critique other people's images, and it's really helped me grow as a photographer as I've started to take pictures and look through the viewfinder. I think about all of the advice I'm giving other people, and I've started to kind of incorporate it more and more into my own work.
Good. Well, it sounds like you are on the right track to becoming the photographer that you want to become.
That does make me feel better.
Good. I'm back now. So that was something.
It was.
Yeah. So definitely, hopefully it gives you something to think about, and don't get so hung up on, if you do, on, you know, admiring other people's images and, you know, being mopey about not being at whatever level you wish you were. I know that happens to me a lot, and it's really hard to get out of that kind of rut, but you just have to not compare your own images to other people's pictures.
Great.
Yep.
What's next?
Well, I think what's next is reader questions.
Or viewer questions.
Or viewer questions, that's right. No one reads.
Some people read.
Well, we don't post a lot of stuff to read. I mean, that's what I meant.
I write tons. Okay. First question.
First question is by M. Bishop.
Michael
Bishop.
I think.
Do I need a battery grip?
I don't know, Michael.
I don't think you need. I don't think anybody needs a battery grip.
So, battery grips, for those who don't know, are the add-ons to your camera that usually slide in where the battery goes and have room for 2 batteries. Sometimes they also allow you to shoot with AA batteries. They have little cartridges.
They usually do.
Don't bother. Your life with all those batteries is much shorter than putting in the camera batteries. So they give you much longer battery life.
That's right.
They also give you a bigger, bulkier camera. That sometimes can be good. Like if you are been shooting with, well, let's take. I don't know if they make a battery grip for this little Sony.
I bet they do.
What is anything else in reach? No, the T5i.
The 5D Mark III. How about that?
No, I don't want to take that because we're talking about. So for some people, holding a camera like the T5i, not usually with the GoPro mounted to the top, is not comfortable for long periods of time because your hand can kind of hang off the bottom. But you shove a battery grip on there.
This is much bigger battery grip though than.
Yeah, but you get the idea. And it becomes more of a substantial camera to hold. And that can be nice.
Yeah.
It also is nice because it gives you
vertical shooting ability.
Yep.
So it has a shutter button, so when you shoot portrait shots, you don't have to awkwardly hold the camera like this. It also has a joystick, the dials, or a dial right here to change, you know, either your aperture or your shutter speed. All of the buttons that you'll find on the back of the camera to change your focus point, again, along with the joystick. And so, yeah, and it gives you longer battery life, so that's nice to have.
Yeah, it's really kind of a personal preference. I think if you're doing professional shooting and you have one of these smaller cameras, it's certainly something to consider for that longer battery life and the more ergonomic controls. If you're not, I don't know. I think I did have one for the Rebel XT for many years and liked it. But then one day I took it off and I was like, oh, my camera's so much more portable now.
Yeah, and I shot with it at weddings a lot. And I might do it again some this season. It's very rarely that I have to change a camera battery. I usually do it at the reception, and it's not like a huge deal to change it. So at the end of the day, when you're like carrying a camera for hours on end and you're on your feet, like this can add some weight. So the lighter you can keep it, the better.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of, it has some nice, like, features, but do you need it? You definitely don't.
And some of the cameras, now we're talking from 5D Mark III standpoint where you can easily shoot 2,000 images before you need to replace the battery. But, you know, T5i, you're talking 600-700 pictures. So you may, if you're going to go through a long evening of professional shooting, want that. My turn.
Okay.
All right, so that was Michael's answer. Kendalllao had a question that I feel is a little repetitive. No offense to Kendalllao, because they don't know that everybody's asked this before, really. But it's good enough that I'm going to talk about it again. So according to the focal length shutter speed rule, if I'm using a 55mm lens, so let's say they're talking about the kit lens, when I'm zoomed out to 55, I'm shooting at f5.6. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 55mm lens, I need to shoot at about 1/80th of a second to avoid handshake, probable handshake from that focal length shutter speed rule. Let's ignore that this lens has IS for a second. However, my maximum aperture is at 5.6 now, and my exposure is really low. I don't want to push my ISO too high because my pictures are going to get grainy. What do I do?
So, I think you have a couple of options here. The first option that I'm going to suggest is to use a slower shutter speed. I know this sounds counterintuitive to what we usually say, but the twice your focal length rule to, you know, prevent handshake is more of a rule of thumb.
It's not twice, it's just above. Make sure you're above.
Or at least you're, okay, yes, yeah. But this was
taking
because
into
it was
account
the crop sensor, right?
Yes,
right.
You're right.
So, it is just a rule of thumb. If you need to, because you need more light, I would be comfortable slowing down your shutter speed just a tiny bit and just being really aware that you're doing that and making sure that you hold your camera very steady or you tell your subject to stay very still. If you have that option. If you don't have that option, then I would say increase your aperture. If you have a really nicely exposed photo, then you shouldn't have too much noise to worry about.
You mean increase your ISO?
Your ISO, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I meant.
Okay. I would flip those two. And when I thought I would...
How would you flip them?
My first preference would be go ahead and go up to that slightly higher ISO. And if you nail your exposure or even overexpose a little bit, that's going to be able to hide that noise fairly well, a good exposure. But if you are scared to go up in ISO and you keep it a little bit underexposed, those shadows really show the noise.
Right.
So
I don't think I was prioritizing one over another.
You were just optioning?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing to really think about to further, I guess you should prioritize ISO over shutter speed if you can. You can always reduce noise. You can't fix motion blur. So
right. You can't.
Right.
Yes,
you can always, in post, try to reduce noise. And with the help of Lightroom or Noise Ninja or, you know, with Photoshop, you can reduce the amount of noise in your image. And again, as long as you have a properly exposed photo, slightly overexposed photo, that should be very minimal to begin with. But you cannot correct motion blur. So you weigh those things, so you should probably...
And then we can put back into the equation the fact that this lens does have IS. If your subjects are stationary, like the inside of a cathedral or something, you can certainly go several stops below the safe shutter speed to get a nicer exposure.
Stops?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, at least 2. Okay. You should be able to. Most of these, you're supposed to go to 3, and the good ones to 4 stops. IS. But that's also something that you are going to need to experiment with, and it's going to change based on time of day, for you, how much caffeine you've had. I mean, those things really.
Yeah.
And there's other little tricks that we should talk about, other ways to stabilize, bracing, holding, pressing against your face.
Putting it up against your mouth like that guy on that.
Yeah, that's with the GoPro. That Mick.
I know.
Mick Bergeron. I don't know how I'm pronouncing his last name. You press the GoPro against your mouth and you get much more stable video. You look goofy, but hey, I don't care if you get stable video. Good.
All right.
All right, thanks. A couple more questions from folks on the Facebook. Kevin and I were chatting the other day about Mac versus Windows debate. His machine blew up, mushroom cloud, and he's thinking about buying a Mac. And he was asking me my opinion. I have a new Mac Pro MacBook Pro, not the Mac Pro. I don't have that kind of money. And I went with Mac really because I'm not a strong believer one way or the other. I'm kind of platform agnostic. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
I like that term. But
only when it comes to computers, though, not when it comes to phones, because you're pretty...
Android's
you're
better.
a
iOS.
Okay.
Okay. Because Final Cut Pro. That is the video editing platform I have learned on, worked with, and it is not cross-platform. It's only available on Mac. It works really well for me. And every once in a while I think, well, I could just go learn Adobe Premiere because we own that as part of that suite. And then I talk to these real videographers that I appreciate and admire and look up to, and they're like, Final Cut Pro is really, it's good. And I feel like, well, I shouldn't take the time to learn something else. And plus, there is the debate of you may be able to get more for your money. It always kind of seems like you can get more for your money on the PC side at face value. Then you start to add the things up and you factor in build quality, and I don't want to start a debate. You can certainly let me know how you feel about it down below. I'd be happy to read them. But it just, I got the Mac.
I just hate the operating system, the Windows operating system.
Yeah, I know. I feel like these days we spend so little time in the operating system. You're in the browser, or you're in something like Lightroom.
For a file, though, it's just, it makes a difference. It really does.
I don't think it matters too much. Although I have to say that the whole tiled interface of the Windows is, and I know you can turn that off now. They've gone back on that.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Next
Okay.
question.
That was a good question. So Kevin, Mac's rule, dog's drool. Oh, about the battery grips, do we use any that aren't Canon branded? When I had my Rebel XT, I used like an Optica brand. It's fine. I haven't heard anything terrible about any of those third party. Just check the ones, make sure they got at least 4 stars on Amazon, and I think they're fine. Brian asked me about the back button autofocusing with the Fuji X-T1 during manual mode. Is it as quick and snappy as compared to when you would otherwise half press on the shutter button in autofocus mode? Yes. And we love back button focusing. We use it. When we press our shutter buttons, it doesn't focus for us. We want that. And you say, well, why do you want that? Well, I've talked about it before. I've got, if I forget to put the link down below, message me and I will send you to the video and the article I've written about why it is the bee's knees. All right. Pappy, you're asking for thoughts on on glide cams and like a steady cam. The glide cams are the little tracks that you can slide your cameras back and forth on for anybody. I don't know. I haven't used them. Every once in a while I think it would be nice. It adds certainly some dramatic motion to an otherwise static shot of products and things like that. But the good ones are expensive and I haven't bought. The Steadicam, look on my Facebook. I put that link to that Kickstarter that looks pretty good. Ruby was grumpy with them though because they were a little down on plastic injection molding because they were all like metal, metal, metal. But they wanted to stress that their stuff was made out of metal. Sorry, Ruby. Craig's got a great link here that I think we're going to talk about in our next image critique, and it is from PPA. You're a PPA member, aren't you?
Yes.
It is the 12 elements of a merit image. And briefly, let me just share a couple of them with you. Basically, it's things like impact. When you look at the image, does it evoke some kind of emotion in you? Technical excellence. Is it composed nicely? Is the exposure right? So let's talk about those.
There's 12 of them?
There's 12 of them.
Wow.
Bam.
We will have to school ourselves on that.
We will. I don't think I'd ever heard of that before.
Me neither.
But I think it's nice, and I think it's something we'll share in our image critique. So pay attention to that. Thank you, Craig. JCB, do you mind if we call you that, JCB? He wants to know if we drank any. Do you think it was obvious that we did?
Moving on.
Cheers. Renee. Renee's got a great question. He just bought the Speedlight 600 RT. Oh, they're nice, aren't they? They're really nice. he's read that if you use this flash as a slave, you need another 600 RT for the master, therefore eliminating the in-camera flash settings as master or any other flash as a master. Is this true? Does this handcuff me? Do I need another 600, another line of Canon flashes? It depends on what. I don't remember, Renee, what model camera you're shooting with, but you can switch the 600 over to optical and make it fire with the 70D or the T5i.
It will not work as well as it will with either another 600 RT or with the actual controller. I know you can buy a little remote thing that you can put on top of your camera that is about half as much the price that of another 600 RT. I realize it's still a chunk of money, but yeah, like I said, if you have something that has a pop-up flash, you can use the optical option in the camera to trigger it. So.
Yep. Remember the RT stands for radio transmission.
That's right.
It's got the built-in radio transmitters, whereas most of these other flashes we're working with these days are optical.
Yep.
Fires flash, the flash sees it, fires itself. Wesley wants to know more about sharpening in Lightroom, so that's something we'll talk about. We really are thinking, I should say we're not working hard at it, but we're thinking hard about producing a series of Lightroom videos for you all. As I said, Christina, skin tones, skin tones, skin tones. You do such magic with skin tones. I want you to talk about that. And the only quick tip I have for sharpening is be careful not to overdo it, especially if you're posting on Facebook, because they sharpen some in their kind of compression algorithms. Ben wants to know if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to photograph it, do other trees come to its aid? Ben, you've been watching too much Lord of the Rings and the Ints. I don't know. Let us know. One light headshot with a shoot-through umbrella and reflective umbrella. How to shoot these. Whoa. Come back and talk about that at some point. What was the worst lens you ever had or regretted buying? I think we researched carefully enough.
Yeah.
That all of the lenses that we've ever bought, we've used for many years.
Yeah, I don't think I can think of any. I mean, maybe, no. I was going to say no, never mind.
Cheap answer is once when I was reviewing a bunch of 55 to 250 lenses, I bought the old wrong one by mistake. I regretted that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really, I wasn't trying to buy it to use it.
Do research before you buy a lens, for sure.
Martin wants to know tips for amateur wedding photographers. Martin, please go watch. We got 3 solid videos that walk you through all of the stuff that we have shared about weddings. We will come back with more tips. The biggest tip I can give you, though, do you know what the biggest tip I was going to give?
Prepare.
Plan and prepare. PP. Plan and prepare.
PP.
Robert Benjamin Hines wants display recommendations.
Display recommendations?
Yeah, I think like monitors.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, we don't have good ones for that. More Lightroom tips and techniques. Emmanuel wants a review of the Mitacon 50mm f.95. We'll see what we can do about that. Hey.
Looks like that's it.
We've wrapped this puppy up. All right. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got questions, comments, suggestions for topics in future episodes, leave them right down below. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, hit that button. That button is that subscribe button. Boop, bloop, bloop. That's helpful. If you're watching this and you're not part of the Facebook community, come on over. Click the like button. Be part of that community. If you hate Facebook, okay, never mind. I don't blame you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You drinking my drink, woman?
Make it black and white.
Artsy fartsy. 1, 2, 3, go. Where's your Mac Mini?
It's an iPad mini. I don't know where it is.
It's right there.